Behind every grin lies something unspoken. What if I revealed that merely 2 instances, just 2 minuscule ruptures in the fabric of time, are sufficient to glimpse the authentic individual concealed beneath the facade? Not countless hours of dialogue, not decades of companionship, not even therapeutic intervention. Carl Jung once stated, "The most frightening thing is to accept yourself completely." And the reality is the majority of individuals cannot. They refuse. They will not. Because what resides underneath the exterior isn't invariably pleasant. It's unprocessed, genuine, occasionally shadowy. That's precisely why they grin so frequently, why they offer you flattery, why they pretend everything is fine. Because the darkness within them dreads being witnessed, dreads being comprehended, dreads being dismissed. But here's the secret Jung discovered. Authenticity seeps out in micro-moments when the ego is distracted, when the social facade slips. And if you understand what to search for, you'll never again be deceived by an artificial smile. Let's plunge into the unconscious. Let's examine the 2 powerful psychological indicators Carl Jung suggested so you can finally interpret what people genuinely feel, who they genuinely are, and what they're genuinely concealing behind their expressions. This isn't about manipulation. This is about awareness, and it will transform how you perceive everyone. Let's commence. Chapter 1. Observe how they treat the vulnerable. You want to understand someone's authentic nature? Don't observe how they treat the influential. Observe how they treat the invisible. Notice their body language when a janitor enters the space. Listen to their inflection when speaking to the delivery person. Watch their eyes when a young person requests assistance. Because in that instant, their shadow is communicating. Carl Jung famously stated, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. But what if I revealed that everything we disregard about others also exposes our truest essence?" We exist in a world fixated on performing compassion on social platforms, before supervisors, romantic interests, content creators. But the genuine examination is how someone behaves when there's nothing to acquire, no validation, no approval, no observers. That's precisely why the server principle became prominent in contemporary psychology. If someone treats the server poorly, they're not a decent person. They're simply skilled at performing. But Jung went further. He perceived this not merely as discourtesy, but a fissure in the spirit. When someone diminishes the vulnerable, ridicules the fragile, speaks condescendingly to those who cannot retaliate, they're not displaying confidence. They're displaying an affliction in the unconscious. A superiority complex never concerns dominance. It concerns anguish. Behind every boisterous, pompous, patronizing individual is a version of them that was once disregarded, overlooked, forsaken, invisible. Now, to prevent ever feeling insignificant again, he makes others feel insignificant first. This is shadow projection. And Carl Jung cautioned, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." So, if someone perpetually needs to dominate, ridicule, or diminish others, it's not merely poor behavior. It's a trauma response. These are not merely irritating patterns. They're preliminary indicators of profound psychological shadows. Do they acknowledge the janitor or behave like they're transparent? Do they smile at the supervisor but roll their eyes at the personnel? Do they remember the names of influential people exclusively? Do they jest at someone's expense when that person cannot retaliate? Do they borrow currency from someone less affluent and never reimburse it simply because they know that person won't confront them? These aren't insignificant flaws. These are leaks in the unconscious, the precise locations where ego has silenced empathy. Because if someone is selectively compassionate, they're not compassionate. They're calculating. Power without modesty is merely insecurity. You want to be powerful? Be compassionate when nobody's observing. You want to be esteemed? Esteem those who can accomplish nothing for you. Because the individual who speaks gently to the custodian and gives dignity to the forgotten is the individual whose shadow has been confronted, understood, and integrated. And that's genuine strength. That's what Jung meant by individuation, becoming complete. Chapter 2, grant them power, then observe. You genuinely want to understand who someone is? Don't inquire. Don't examine their patience. Don't even wait for years. Simply do this one thing: grant them power. Give them some status, an advancement, a verification badge, some applause, a financial balance with several additional zeros, a follower count that begins nourishing their ego, even a minor advantage in a dialogue, and then observe carefully. That's when the metamorphosis commences. Carl Jung stated, "The persona is the facade we wear publicly, but grant a man liberty and the facade begins to descend. Because power doesn't contaminate a man, it unveils him. Before power, individuals attempt to earn affection. After power, they attempt to command fear. Before power, they require you. After power, they forget you. You'll witness it in their inflection, their expressions, their quietness, their newfound pattern of scenes, their sudden depletion of patience with individuals they used to admire. They don't ambulate the same because now they believe they're soaring." The power paradox. Contemporary neuroscience validates what Jung intuited a century ago. Psychological investigations demonstrate a startling reality. Once someone acquires power, their empathy begins to expire. Not metaphorically, literally. Their mirror neurons, the components of the brain that permit us to experience others' emotions, begin to deactivate. So the powerful cease experiencing, cease listening, cease caring. They don't perceive you as a human being anymore. They perceive you as a function. A server becomes merely a service. A companion becomes merely an admirer. A parent becomes merely another obligation. A partner becomes merely someone obstructing. It's not personal. It's psychological. And unless that person has done serious internal shadow work, they will descend into this trap. Jung would designate this the facade of persona fracturing and the authentic self finally emerging. We encounter ourselves repeatedly in 1,000 disguises. But here's the twist. Power doesn't corrupt individuals. It unveils the corruption that was concealed behind charm and modesty. It's like agitating a container. What spills out was perpetually inside. Red flags. Power unmasked. Want to understand if someone's spirit is pure? Don't observe how they suffer. Observe how they succeed. Ask, do they become louder when they're esteemed? Do they communicate less to you the higher they ascend? Do they now post quotations about critics to nourish their ego? Do they interrupt others more during dialogues? Do they forget who assisted them climb once they reach the summit? Do they start maintaining people beneath them merely to feel elevated? Because when individuals no longer require you, that's when you'll finally witness if they ever genuinely valued you. Genuine power is modesty that survived achievement. The world is abundant with individuals who were pleasant until you handed them a small advantage. It's not that power destroyed them. Power merely stopped them from pretending. That's why the genuinely exceptional leaders in history were those who wore modesty like protection. The ones who didn't permit power make them forget anguish. The ones who remembered their origins even when they touched the atmosphere. So if you want to examine someone's spirit, don't wait for catastrophe. Just wait for achievement. And if they forget you at the summit, be grateful because you were never supposed to follow them there anyway. Chapter 3. The facade always descends. You didn't lose a companion. You witnessed their facade descend. They received advancement. Suddenly they ceased responding to your messages, began ridiculing your concepts in gatherings, speaking over you, correcting you before others. Not to assist you develop, but to feel taller. That's not them transforming. That's them revealing. Because power isn't merely an examination. It's a catalyst. It activates everything that was suppressed beneath the exterior. And Jung cautioned us long ago, man is not what he believes he is. He is what he conceals. And that should freeze your spine. The person you believed was compassionate, that was merely their performance while they still required your validation. The one who suddenly became frigid, they were perpetually frigid. They merely masked it with laughter and attention. The psychological break. When control unlocks the shadow. Here's the painful reality. When someone finally reaches a position where they no longer must impress you, they cease performing. They don't require you to appreciate them anymore. They don't require to pretend they're compassionate, faithful, supportive. So what transpires? Their shadow steps forward. Unfiltered, untamed, unapologetic. The romantic partner who now controls the finances suddenly becomes emotionally distant, manipulative, withholding affection as leverage. A best companion who lands a leadership designation starts utilizing sarcasm to dominate, pushing you down to elevate themselves up. And we sit there astonished saying, they've transformed. But the reality is they haven't transformed. You're merely witnessing what was perpetually there, concealed, repressed behind charm, humor, and false vulnerability. The facade descends when there's no justification to perform. We all wear facades. Jung designated this the persona, the social self we construct to survive. But personas are burdensome. They consume energy to sustain. So when someone finally acquires enough status, currency, control, or perceived superiority, they become exhausted of the performance, and that's when it drops. No more pleasant messages. No more inquiring how your day proceeded. No more waiting for your contribution. No more pretending to care because now they believe they don't have to. That's not development. That's ego unchained. Red flags. The facade is slipping. You'll witness it in subtle methods. Their humor begins cutting deeper. Their compliments vanish. Their energy shifts from partnership to superiority. They no longer celebrate your victories. They compare them. They only contact when they require something. They provide guidance not to uplift but to correct, control, or crush. And the worst component, they'll blame you for noticing, designate you too sensitive, state you've transformed, accuse you of being envious. Classic gaslighting defense mechanism. Because once the facade descends, they're exposed. And exposure terrifies the shadow. Final message. When the facade descends, don't retrieve it for them. Cease attempting to remind them who they used to be. That was never them. Cease grieving the illusion. You were enamored with their facade, not their spirit. Carl Jung didn't sugarcoat it. He understood the human psyche is abundant with layers and most individuals never encounter themselves. So when you finally witness the shadow in someone, believe it. Don't rationalize it. Don't excuse it. Don't pursue closure from someone who can't even be honest with themselves. Sometimes the most powerful healing is to simply state, now I witness who you genuinely are. And that's sufficient. Chapter 4. Turn the mirror on yourself. Here's the most difficult reality Carl Jung ever handed us. Before you dissect them, before you decode her behavior, before you analyze his facade, you must first inquire, who am I when nobody is observing? Because this script, this philosophy, this shadow work, it's not merely a lens to identify red flags in others. It's a mirror, a brutally honest one. Inquire yourself. Are you compassionate only when it benefits your reputation? Do you switch your inflection depending on whom you're addressing? Are you gentle to those with influence, but sarcastic to those beneath you? Do you become harsh when there are no consequences? Because if the answer is affirmative, then it's not your personality communicating, it's your unconscious shadow operating the show. Carl Jung stated, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of illumination, but by making the darkness conscious. And that signifies if you persist escaping from your darkness, you'll become a captive to it. The shadow isn't evil, it's unconscious. Most individuals hear shadow and contemplate demons, evil, darkness, corruption. But Jung didn't believe the shadow was evil. He believed it was disregarded. He perceived it as the component of you that was silenced as a child, rejected by society, buried to survive. Your anger, your envy, your requirement for validation, your apprehension of being perceived as fragile, your desire to dominate, your silent hatred for someone who reminds you of yourself. You didn't select those emotions. They were conditioned. And when you denied them instead of healing them, they went underground. And now they control your inflection, your patterns, your reactions, your failures in relationships, your quietness when you should have spoken, your rage when you should have listened. Because if you don't confront your shadow, it operates your existence. And Jung stated it optimally. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. True strength, confronting what's inside. It's effortless to evaluate others. It's secure. It's entertaining. But genuine strength is possessing the courage to sit in quietness and inquire, why did I communicate to them that way? Why did I experience envy when they succeeded? Why do I require attention when I enter a space? Why do I lose esteem for individuals who don't impress me? Because that's your mirror. That's your moment. That's your edge of development. Every human possesses a shadow. But the ones who shine are the ones who confronted it, integrated it, and became complete. This is individuation. This is self-mastery. This is what makes an individual unshakable. Red flags not in others but in yourself. Do you behave differently with individuals who cannot assist you? Do you interrupt others because it makes you experience intelligent? Do you scroll in quietness when your companion wins but double-like when they fail? Do you jest about individuals' anguish to appear humorous publicly? Do you secretly enjoy possessing dominance over someone? These are not flaws. These are leaks in your unconscious. These are components of you that require healing, not shame. Because if you don't confront them, you'll project them onto your romantic partner, onto your offspring, onto your team, and worst of all, onto your future. Final message. You are not your shadow, but you are responsible for it. Cease believing awareness is sufficient. Cease stating, this is merely who I am. Because the reality is you were shaped and what was suppressed became your shadow. And what became your shadow became your catalysts. You are not evil. You are unconscious. But once you comprehend this, you possess no excuse. Because now you comprehend that shadow work isn't about blaming others. It's about reclaiming your dominance. Not by combating darkness, but by bringing illumination into it. Integration is the objective and liberty is the reward. Chapter 6. The universe examines you through individuals. Carl Jung didn't believe in coincidences. He believed in synchronicity. The concept that everything and everyone in your existence appears purposefully for your transformation. So when you encounter a toxic individual, when someone humiliates you, when someone betrays you, when someone disrespects your time, your energy, your affection, cease inquiring, why are they like this? Commence inquiring, why did the universe dispatch this mirror now? Because as Jung expressed it, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. They are not the lesson. You are. Mirrors, not monsters. Every disrespect you permit, every boundary you disregard, every time you remain silent when your spirit is screaming, is not about them. It's about you. That companion who constantly interrupts you might be reflecting your apprehension of being unheard. That partner who manipulates and controls might be echoing your childhood wound where affection was conditional. That supervisor who belittles you might be forcing you to reclaim your voice, the one you've buried for years. These individuals aren't accidents. They're assignments. They're X-rays from the divine demonstrating you precisely where you haven't healed. You're not merely observing them. You're decoding yourself. The shadow dance. Unconscious attracts unconscious. Here's the uncomfortable reality Jung made explicit. You don't merely attract individuals who correspond your illumination. You also attract those who catalyze your darkness. Until your inner child experiences safety, you'll persist selecting partners who abandon you. Until you learn to communicate your authenticity, you'll persist surrounding yourself with individuals who silence you. Until you cease performing for affection, you'll persist descending for individuals who make you earn it. Because your unconscious mind doesn't desire comfort. It desires familiarity. And until you become aware of your pattern, you'll designate it fate. You'll designate it misfortune. But it's not. It's merely your shadow attempting to come home. Examples of spiritual mirrors in actual existence. The companion who only contacts when they require something. An examination. Will you finally state no? The partner who pulls you close then pushes you away. A mirror. Are you addicted to emotional chaos? The coworker who steals your credit and escapes with it. A message. Will you step into your worth or remain silent again? The narcissist in your existence. A brutal reflection. Do you still equate affection with anguish? These are not merely malevolent individuals. They are soul-level invitations to reclaim the components of you that you abandoned. Final message: the individuals you encounter are lessons in human form. This chapter isn't about blame. It's about awakening. The universe doesn't punish, it instructs. And individuals are its greatest instruments. Every person who catalyzes you is touching a wound. Every person who disrespects you is mirroring your quietness. Every person who departs is instructing you how to remain with yourself. So next time someone enters your existence and agitates everything inside you, don't merely react. Don't merely blame, reflect. Because that person might merely be the lesson that transforms everything. Chapter 7. When their actions don't correspond their expressions. Expressions are effortless. They're rehearsed, controlled, attractive. But actions, that's where the spirit leaks. Carl Jung didn't trust individuals' expressions. He observed their patterns. He studied their inconsistencies because that's where the shadow conceals. Individuals don't deceive with their expressions. They deceive with their facades. And the facade is constructed of language, of quotations, status updates, and well-practiced affirmations. But when the unconscious slips, that's when you witness who they genuinely are. The shadow perpetually unveils itself in action. You'll encounter individuals who state, "I have affection for you," but disregard your anguish when you require them most. "I'm a peaceful person," but explode the instant they're challenged. "I'm all about esteem," but belittle the server, shame the vulnerable, and gossip behind closed doors. "I'm modest," but secretly compete, control, and boast when nobody's noticing. These aren't contradictions, they're projections. The person who shouts about peace is often battling rage. The one who flaunts modesty often fears inadequacy. The loudest preacher of affection, sometimes the most starved of it. Carl Jung understood that what you resist in others resides in you. So when someone points the finger too frequently, they're attempting to bury what's already inside. Behavior is the genuine language of the unconscious. If someone constantly states, "I care about you," but never appears, they don't care. They care about appearing caring. If someone states, "I'm a secure person," but utilizes your vulnerability against you, they're not secure. They're frightened of being vulnerable themselves. If someone states, "I don't evaluate individuals," but laughs at anguish and spreads gossip, that's not development. That's ego dressed in self-help terminology. Expressions are inexpensive. Behavior is authenticity. Jung didn't decode individuals based on what they stated. He decoded them based on the energy behind their patterns. The expressions may flatter, but the patterns perpetually communicate the reality. When you do this, don't hate yourself. Heal yourself. Let's reverse the mirror. If you state you're compassionate but communicate harshly when stressed, that's not hypocrisy. That's an unhealed catalyst. If you state you believe in self-affection but remain in toxic dynamics, that's not fragility. That's your shadow pleading to be witnessed. If you preach forgiveness but still carry resentment, that's not failure. That's your unconscious refusing to forget what you haven't processed. Carl Jung never requested us to be perfect. He requested us to be aware because the shadow isn't evil. It's unconscious. And until you confront it, you'll persist fracturing things while claiming to be doing your optimal. This is not self-blame. This is self-responsibility. This is shadow work. Final message: believe behavior, not promises. The world is abundant with individuals who state the correct thing but exist the opposite. So cease evaluating others and yourself by intentions. Evaluate by consistency. If someone preaches affection but spreads apprehension, they don't require correction. They require introspection. And if you do this too, you don't require shame. You require integration. That's what shadow work is all about. Jung stated, "We encounter ourselves repeatedly in 1,000 disguises." So the next time expressions sound beautiful but experience hollow, observe their walk, not their talk. Because your spirit already comprehends the reality. You merely require to cease doubting it. Chapter 8. The danger of selective compassion. Genuine compassion doesn't transform with the space. It doesn't scan your follower count. It doesn't shift when nobody's observing. Authentic compassion is unshaken by status. It perceives the CEO and the custodian the same. But most individuals aren't compassionate. They're performing. They're sweet to content creators, frigid to janitors, respectful to supervisors, dismissive to servers. This isn't compassion. This is calculation. And Carl Jung possessed a name for it. The persona is not who we are. It is who we contemplate we should be. It's the social facade, the smile we wear when we require something, the inflection we utilize to impress, the false modesty utilized as currency. Compassion that depends on status isn't compassion, it's strategy. Selective compassion is one of the most dangerous traits. Selective compassion is one of the most dangerous traits you'll encounter because it appears like goodness, but it's hollow. These individuals comprehend how to perform, but not how to experience. Their compassion arrives with conditions. If you're useful, they're warm. If you're powerless, they disregard you. If you possess status, they praise you. If you require assistance, they vanish. This isn't morality. It's a transactional personality. They don't have affection for individuals. They have affection for leverage. Signs of a transactional spirit. They demonstrate public support but private neglect. They flatter those in dominance and forget the ones who assisted them ascend. They ghost you when you're struggling but celebrate you when you're trending. They're faithful to those who can offer opportunity, not those who offered loyalty. And here's the brutal reality. They're not being false with you. They're being genuine with their intentions. You simply didn't desire to witness it. Why this compassion is dangerous? Because it deceives you. It makes you believe someone is genuine when really they're merely calculating value. And if you don't recognize this pattern, you'll persist giving your spirit to individuals who are only giving you a performance. You'll be vulnerable with someone who's collecting ammunition. You'll be faithful to someone who's only faithful to status. You'll be fractured by someone who was never complete to commence with. Jung's warning: don't trust the facade. Jung believed the most dangerous individuals aren't the openly cruel. They're the ones who perform goodness as a social facade. Because their charm isn't genuine. Their compassion is selective. Their morality is rented. And if you don't learn to read between the smiles, you'll persist trusting facades instead of spirits. Final message: genuine compassion is unconditional. You want to comprehend someone's character? Observe how they treat the server, the janitor, the child, the stranger who can accomplish nothing for them. That's where the facade drops. That's where the spirit communicates. That's where genuine compassion resides. Jung didn't instruct us to hate the world. He instructed us to witness it clearly. Because once you recognize the difference between performance and presence, you cease pursuing validation and you commence constructing genuine connections. Chapter 9. The most dangerous individuals are never questioned. You've been instructed to fear loud individuals, angry individuals, explosive individuals. But the most dangerous ones are often silent, calm, composed. They don't raise their voice. They lower your confidence. They don't scream to injure you. They smile while twisting your reality. Carl Jung cautioned us. Individuals will accomplish anything, no matter how absurd, to prevent confronting their own spirits. And some individuals become masters at constructing a world where nobody dares hold up a mirror to them. Power without question becomes a prison. These are the manipulators who surround themselves with yes individuals, who reward obedience and punish honesty, who train others to fear confrontation by utilizing quietness, guilt, or shame as weapons. They're not leaders, they're controllers. The parent who controls through guilt. After all I've accomplished for you. That's not affection. That's emotional blackmail. The supervisor who gaslights but designates it mentoring. You're too sensitive. You misunderstood me. That's not discipline. That's psychological warfare. The companion who perpetually wins because they've surrounded themselves with individuals too frightened to state. You're being unfair. These individuals don't desire authenticity. They desire obedience. They're not strong. They're frightened of accountability. Here's what Jung witnessed. These aren't powerful individuals. They're individuals terrified of being exposed. They prevent mirrors, prevent reflection, prevent authenticity. Because deep inside they comprehend the instant someone questions them. The persona fractures, so they construct walls of quietness. Summon your reactions, ridicule your emotions so they never must confront their own. The more someone prevents being challenged, the more dangerous they become. Because now their shadow operates the show unopposed. Red flags, signs of the unquestioned controller. They surround themselves with individuals who concur with everything they state. They make you experience guilty for establishing boundaries. They designate accountability drama. They label emotional honesty as fragility. They reverse the script so skillfully you conclude apologizing for their mistakes. They make quietness a punishment instrument. They never admit fault but perpetually indicate it in others. These individuals are not seeking development. They're seeking control without consequences. Jung's shadow warning. The longer they prevent the mirror, the darker the shadow. Carl Jung believed that dominance isn't dangerous in itself. It becomes dangerous when it's never questioned. Because when someone is permitted to exist inside their ego excessively long, it becomes a palace of illusion. They commence believing they're perpetually correct, that anyone who disagrees is toxic, that their anguish is special but yours is dramatic, that they are evolved and everyone else is beneath them. They don't desire healing. They desire dominance. And they utilize spiritual language to justify it. But make no mistake, this isn't development, it's shadow inflation. Final message. Don't fear the loud, fear the unquestioned. The genuine threat isn't the one who yells, it's the one who never listens. It's the parent who never apologizes, the partner who never reflects, the companion who never inquires if they've injured you, the supervisor who designates obedience esteem. These are the ones who weaponize compassion, who smile while crushing your boundaries, who disguise control as care, who conceal behind intellect, status, or spiritual quotations because they can't bear to confront the reality. They're frightened. They're lost. They're ruled by a shadow they've never dared to confront. Chapter 10. Healing commences when you confront your own shadow. You can't decode others if you've never decoded yourself. You can't claim to identify manipulation, projection, or ego in others if you're still denying where it resides inside you. Before you evaluate how someone behaves with dominance, pause, turn the mirror around, and inquire yourself, do I crave control when I experience disregarded? Do I raise my voice to experience powerful? Do I get frigid when I'm frightened of being injured? Do I manipulate affection so I don't experience rejection? Because the shadow doesn't only reside in them. It resides in you. It resides in all of us. And the bravest thing you can accomplish is not summon someone else out. It's to summon yourself in. Jung's most brutal reality. Healing isn't attractive. Carl Jung didn't romanticize healing. He didn't wrap it in affirmations, crystals, or filters. He stripped it down to its rawest core. Until you confront your own darkness, you will project it onto others. Genuine healing isn't journaling and illuminating candles. It's admitting that perhaps you were the problem. It's acknowledging that your boundaries were sometimes merely walls. It's owning the fact that sometimes you pushed individuals away not because they were toxic, but because you were frightened of being witnessed. Authentic shadow work is sitting in the messy version of yourself and not escaping. Cease observing others. Commence observing yourself. We are instructed to study others, to analyze their red flags, to read their energy, to summon out their ego. But the genuine dominance is in the instance where you observe your own. When you possess the upper hand, do you utilize it to control or to uplift? When someone opens up to you, do you protect their vulnerability or utilize it later? When you're injured, do you communicate with honesty or manipulate to experience secure? This is the work, the uncomfortable, the invisible, the sacred. Liberty commences where the shadow concludes. You're not liberated when individuals approve of you. You're liberated when you don't require to conceal from yourself anymore. You're not healed when you release it. You're healed when you permit it to transform you. And transformation doesn't commence with fixing the world. It commences with fixing your perception of yourself. Jung's ultimate reality. You are not your ego. You are not your facade. You are not your projection. You are the illumination behind the shadow. But you'll never discover it until you walk through the darkness first. Final message. The shadow isn't your enemy. It's your map. Cease fearing your flaws. Commence listening to them. Cease pretending to be perfect. Commence being complete. Because every time you deny your envy, rage, apprehension, or shame, it doesn't disappear. Conceals. It waits. And it reemerges through your relationships, your catalysts, and your breakdowns. But when you confront it, when you observe it in the eye, when you state, I witness you, I will learn from you, that's when the chain fractures. That's when the pattern concludes. That's when you become liberated. Chapter 11. The final reality. The shadow was never your enemy. You've spent this entire journey observing others, unmasking manipulation, decoding projection, identifying the fissures in ego. But now there's only one location remaining to observe. Inside. Not to shame yourself, but to reclaim yourself. Carl Jung didn't request us to destroy the shadow. He requested us to befriend it because it was never evil. It was merely exiled. And now it's summoning you home. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you genuinely are. The shadow was never the threat. Disregarding it was. Your shadow isn't the villain. It's the wounded child. The component of you that wasn't held, wasn't heard, wasn't healed. It became control to experience secure. It became quietness to prevent shame. It became anger to protect apprehension. But underneath every harsh reaction is an injury that was never given language. And underneath every facade you wore was a spirit that merely desired to be witnessed without performance. This is not about destroying the shadow. It's about integrating it and becoming complete. Shadow work isn't a trend. It's a spiritual awakening. This wasn't a video series. This was your mirror. You didn't arrive here to observe. You arrived here to remember, to peel back layers of ego, to challenge the false peace you settled for, to observe your anguish in the face and state, I'm not frightened of you anymore. You've walked through manipulation. You've stared into projection. You've questioned affection. Now it's time to confront the reality. You were never fractured, merely buried. And every wound you feared was actually your map back to dominance. Final healing message. You are the illumination. The shadow was the path. There's no enlightenment without shadow. No strength without struggle. No reality without trauma. Carl Jung didn't desire perfect individuals. He desired genuine ones. And genuine individuals cry. They rage. They relapse. But they return to themselves again and again. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of illumination, but by making the darkness conscious. So cease apologizing for your shadow. Commence listening to it. Because once you embrace your complete self, nothing can be utilized against you, not even your past. This series wasn't merely content. It was a mirror. Comment below. I select reality over comfort. I select healing over pretending. I select to confront my shadow. Share this series with someone who's silently suffering behind a smile. Let them comprehend they're not fractured. They're awakening. Subscribe not for motivation but for transformation. Because here we don't sell comfort, we serve reality. And the next chapter of your evolution commences with one decision. Confront yourself, liberate yourself. That's the Carl Jung way. And now it's yours too.